This woman here exposes how the court system is rigged against men and why men are refusing to pay child support without a DNA test. So let's hear what she has to say.
So, in a few seconds, you guys are going to watch a video clip of a father who signed as the legal father of what he thought was his child. And he explained that he didn't really know what the repercussions were because he didn't think at the time that the child wasn't his, which rightfully so. I mean, if you're signing, and you're with that person, you're thinking, that's my child. But I want to throw out some statistics that I thought are rather earth-shattering or very mind-opening, just to kind of piece the puzzle pieces together of this whole child support system. So last year, America, all 50 states, collected roughly about $33 billion in child support payments collectively. The state of California in the year 2020 made $430 million off of child support payments. And if some of you don't know, a majority of the states in America do not pay 100% of the child support payment to the child, meaning they're keeping a portion of it. Not only that, the state of California, for example, I'm mentioning them because they seem to be the most corrupt out of the child support system, and I may be wrong, but they charge a 10% interest rate on any past due child support payments, so they just keep tacking it on, right? Another thing that I found interesting was that the federal government, and I already knew this, but I didn't know to the extent, actually reimburses states 66% of the child support they collect, meaning the states are getting back 66 cents per every dollar. Now let's talk about how child support is really for the children, though.
It isn't. And that's the problem most men face, because they can't trust the mothers who are corrupted by feminism, and the system is already rigged against them, as she herself proved by giving those statistics. There is no hope for men apart from a DNA test. They have to pay child support for kids who are biologically theirs, and they also have to pay child support for children who aren't biologically theirs, as this guy says here.
It was nothing to think about at that time because I had no reason to suspect that he wasn't my child when I signed the acknowledgement of paternity. And so
let me ask you a question about the acknowledgement of paternity, because and you'll have to forgive me, we abbreviate things a lot, AOP,
okay.
all right?
AOP, yeah.
Did you know at the time you signed the acknowledgement of paternity what that actually meant?
I guess I should say yes and no.
Okay. What do you mean by yes and no?
Because at the time I felt I didn't know that it could possibly hold basically, even if you find out that you're not the father, that it would still hold you legally responsible for that child. And so that's the part that I didn't know. And I think the reason why I didn't know that is because I didn't go into it thinking that what ended up happening would have happened.
All right.
Meaning, when I signed it, I was 100% sure that my son was my son.
So he was not the father of that kid, but was still forced to pay the child support just because he signed the acknowledgement slip at birth. And what about the fact that his wife cheated on him? No authorities would question her, but if he fails to pay child support, then he would definitely end up in jail, as this guy did here.
This guy wasted 5 years of his life in jail for not paying child support, just to find out the kid is not his. Guys, this happens every day. There are laws in certain states that will still require the man to legally pay child support, even if the DNA test comes back negative.
Child support for the defendant, Ms. Sears' son, Dylan.
That's right.
Mr. Manser, you are not
Oh, God.
his father.
5 years in prison.
You know who his father is.
Yes, I talked to him still. She should be convicted of some crime.
I should not. I did it.
She really has the nerve to say that she did nothing. This man had to spend 5 years in prison just because he did not pay child support to her for kids that aren't even his, and she even knows the father of that boy. Still, she let that man rot in prison for the money she didn't deserve. But nobody would question this poisonous woman. Nobody would hold her accountable for her actions. There would be no reimbursement for the time this man had to spend in jail. jail, only some words would be said, as seen here.
I want to talk to you here, in person, because I want you to understand that in every victory, in every defeat, in every trial, and in every triumph, there is an opportunity to grow.
Okay. I agree. Thank God for paternity court, because I would have went through life, because I know that she would have never submitted.
But above and beyond that, the value of your life going forward and the quality of it far exceeds anything you've paid monetarily.
Right.
And I know you recognize that
Absolutely.
with spending those 5 years in prison,
Right.
sitting there, having a lot of time to think about life.
Absolutely.
And I need you to support your dad. Of course. Well, at Paternity Court, we are about empowering people to go forward in their lives with the truth.
Yeah, just switch the genders, then go on rambling about quality of life, victory and defeat, and everything else she just said. You would get an entirely different response. It's really easy to stand and talk about these things. But what about that snake of a woman who sucked 5 years of life out of him? Also, a man's life is already really challenging, and she made sure that his life would be even more challenging. No one is going to punish her when she willingly and knowingly asked him for child support payments for kids that weren't his, and then you get women like her who fundamentally agree with a mandatory DNA test, but still say it is a hard one.
DNA test should be mandatory for every child born, regardless of marital status. Well, this is a hard one. So fundamentally, I agree with this. And we all know the big study that just came out, and it all talked about how of the men who question their paternity, like 75% of them were raising kids that like were not theirs. That's a big deal. And I would suggest that anybody who is put into a position of child support, this should be a mandatory thing. The only part that I just struggle with is I really don't want the Gov to have, I gotta put my shoes on, I really don't want the Gov to have basically an entire list, a full database of everybody's DNA, especially my children's. It's the only thing I struggle with. But I think if you are going to be court ordered to pay money, men should have that option. Now, should it be forced? Should it be optional? Ooh, there's a lot of slippery slopes when it comes to privacy and your like individual liberty and your children's privacy. But fundamentally, I do agree. There has got to be some kind of proof if you are going to indebt a man for 18 years, potentially more, because a lot of these child support orders go far into college years, depending on if they're full-time students and all that kind of stuff. So fundamentally, yes, I agree. But there's some of the details that I'm just struggling with a little bit.